responsibly.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to the Saturday Scrum. Well, of course, the big topic through this week has been Daly Cherry Evans and his future. Chammo, I'll start with you again. It seemed like earlier in the week it was DCE saying, I still love Manly. Tony Mestrov saying, we still love DCE. The more I tried to dig into it, the less I could understand it. And all I could get out of it was Channel 9 and Fox worried about who announced it first. Where is this at, and can we completely shut the door on him playing for Manly?
Yeah, 100%. You can shut the door. And Manly released a statement, I think yesterday or the day before, saying he's rejected their 2-year offer, which they made live on NRL 360. And now it's, look, I don't know. I guess at the start, everyone's trying to put on this happy, we're a happy family, there's no issues. But a bloke doesn't walk out on 15 years at a club because he's happy there. And Manly don't let him walk if they're happy with him. It's a two-way street. You can read between the lines. Manly clearly have an issue with Daly Cherry Evans, whether it's football or personal, and Daly hasn't liked the way he's been treated. It feels as though he's been disrespected. They both put on a brave face to try and make it as if there are no issues, but there are issues, and it's led to this happening, and what a story it's been over the last week. And unfortunately, Daly Cherry Evans will finish his career if he decides to play on elsewhere.
Well, and the fallout for this, because there's so many unanswered questions, it just turns into a PR battle between Manly and the club and how they come out looking from it, and Daly and his camp and how they come out looking at it, and who's in the right. That's the question that all their fans want to be answered. What team do we back in this saga? And it's a shame because Manly, when they're playing well this year, they'll go with most teams, and if they're healthy come the end of the year, you'd be confident in saying, well, they can give it a shake if they're playing their best footy. But there's a lot of footy to be played between now and the end of the season, and you just know after every loss where they should have won, it's going to be, well, what's going on in the camp? Is DC unhappy, or is management unhappy? Are they distracted? Or
June 30 rolls around. Is he leaving early?
It's just going to be a sideshow for the rest of the year until he does sign anywhere else. And then again, it's going to be, I think, where he signs will affect the emotion as well. Now, if he signs at the Dolphins and you go, okay, well, there's an attachment for him up there. He grew up playing for Redcliffe. I can see him wanting to do that for a fairy tale finish, to go finish his career up there. That might be okay for some fans, but if it feels like where maybe he could possibly end up across the bridge at another Sydney club, well, then I don't think fans will be happy with that result at all, and they'll be going, well, maybe the emotion won't be so kind towards him, despite the service he has provided for that club for so long. So it's disappointing to see it and how it's played out, and I think we still have a few little hurdles to ride out. If I was a Manly fan, I'd be waiting to see.
Well, they'll be booing him. They are passionate, the Manly fans, and in all honesty, I don't think the Manly fans have really accepted him until probably the last 3 or 4 years when he started to play that really good, consistent footy after what happened before he signed that big mega deal. Like he was on thin ice there with the fans previously for what had gone on contractually before. So
are you talking about the backflip or the Watmo, Glenn Stewart, all that issue in the backflip?
All of that sort of stuff all put together. So I think it's only the last couple of years the fans have really embraced him again as one of their own, as a Manly guy. And it is a shame for Daly that this has tarnished his time I think this is going to tarnish his time at Manly even more again. So when they look back at it and go, you ask the fans, name some of your Manly greats, I don't think his name will get tossed up there, which is a bit of a shame because he's a great player.
He's played, how many games did he play?
He's the longest serving player in the club.
Yeah, and it's obviously, we know he's not going to sign at Manly. There's obviously something going on there. So I'm a bit with you, Wade. Look, I think it'll help him if he signs out of New South Wales and goes up north, and which is all the rumour is that he asked for the story is he asked for a release 12 months ago on compassionate leave to go up north. So which was denied. So look, it's a great story. We all thought, I think, he was going to stay at Manly and be a one-club man, but it's exciting news. I know we've been talking about it for a week now, but it's fun. It's good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
But Heidi, if you have an issue with someone who has been so consistent for your club, don't you just put your personal differences aside and do what's best for the club?
But we don't know who's got the issue.
Well, clearly Daly's got the issue with Manly's lack of love for him, lack of desire to sign him up.
Yeah, I don't get that that happens. That goes on all the time everywhere. Like you don't expect love from your club. You go out there and you're
like your workplace.
You just play footy. Yeah. And I don't think the players within Manly or you know what it's, Wado, when someone leaves a club, I didn't give two shits that someone signed for another club with him, you know, from Para went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, that's just
Business.
that's business.
Well, I think and the most disappointing thing for me looking at the situation is, despite the relationship between Daly and the management, whatever's happening, you can't, for the sake of the club and what he's done there for so long, and what the club are trying to achieve, what management's trying to achieve, it shouldn't have been played out like this. The fact he couldn't go in and have a 15-minute meeting, sit down and go, okay, this is my plans. Let's work out how we're going to release it so we can get it out the best way as possible. It's not going to be good news for everyone, and people are going to be disappointed. But for it to be publicly put on show, him on one channel, the CEO on another channel, breaking news. Well, respectfully, I'm going to reject that. It's just, I think it's great entertainment, great entertainment, great for the broadcast. But on for the Manly Seagulls and their fans and their members, I think it's like a little bit disrespectful that the player couldn't put his ego in and their club couldn't put their egos aside and go, righto, let's get on the same page here and release it together.
But would it matter anyway if all this commotion hadn't happened and he just signed? Would there still be the same? There'd be the same amount of commotion because he's a Manly. He's been there forever. And now he's gone to another club. So that's going to be there anyway.
At least there would be a united front between Daly and management.
Yeah, but look, let me give you a background on it, because I was actually the one who organised the interview for Daly to come on 100% footy. I organised it 2 weeks ago. I know there's this misconception out there that it was some elaborate scheme to try and stuff Manly over or stuff.
It's just rugby league. It just happens.
It happened weeks ago. I went to management and we locked in James Tedesco and Daly Cherry Evans on back-to-back weeks on 100% footy. Now, things change. So Daly's obviously told the club back in December that he won't be playing on at Manly beyond the year. In the weeks leading up to appearing on 100% footy, there's been a lot of noise in the background, a lot of reports out of the News Corp side that Daly wants a 2 years deal. He won't get a 2 year deal in Manly. He's not going to stay if he doesn't get a 2 year deal. Never once in that time, from my understanding, and speaking of both the Cherry Evans camp and Manly, having spoken to Tony Mestroff, there was never ever a conversation about 2 years, wanting 2 years, right? So Daly's obviously sitting listening to that in the background thinking, what's happening here? Who's trying to twist the narrative to make me out to look like the bad guy? And if this continues on, where is it going to lead? So he's obviously made a decision, woken up Monday morning knowing he's on air at 100% footy and thought, well, I've already made this decision. Maybe this is the right platform for me to come out and talk about where he's going. So that's when we began to hear information, Danny Widler and I, because he told the club, Peter Gentle, the football manager, and Anthony Seibold that day told the Trebojevic brothers that he was going on air to tell everyone that he was moving on at the end of the season.
Right.
Retire or go somewhere else. So then Danny and I broke the story at 6:40 p.m. and then you saw what happened on 360. And look, to be honest, I'd be in the exact same situation. If you don't know a story's coming, you'd be scrambling on air. But then, great theatre. Great to see them. Braith and Astor announcing here's a 2 year deal on the table for Cherry Evans. But if I'm Manly and I genuinely want to keep the bloke, I genuinely want him at my football club, you're not ringing NRL 360 to offer him a deal.
Yeah.
They didn't ring Daly. They didn't ring his manager.
Yeah,
And the best part was Mestrov, after the next day, he came out and said, well, respecting his privacy, we were going to wait 6 weeks and offer him a contract extension. Well, it turns out the bloke that they're potentially chasing has an option in his contract for 6 weeks.
Okay, we're talking about Jamal Fogarty.
Jamal Fogarty. So to me, I read between the lines and think, okay, maybe you had your eyes set on Jamal Fogarty because you didn't think Daly Cherry Evans had another season or two in him.
Yeah.
So they knew
you were going to wait,
or they knew he wasn't going to.
Are they watching the same Daly Cherry Evans that I'm watching?
Because they changed their mind, Wado. Because in the off season they were convinced that he's not worth extending for another year. But round one comes around, he brains it against the Cowboys. Yeah. Dylan Brown gets 1.3 mil. They start to think, oh, hang on a second, maybe we do keep this bloke. But by then, damage was done.
Then we have to come to the question. All right, this talk about going home to Queensland. Okay, so he's been in Sydney since he was 15 and he's in his mid-30s. So is he likely to go back there? The three of you, if you were betting people, where is he going to be next year?
I would say the Roosters.
Right.
I feel like, I don't know, it just makes sense to me, the way this has happened. I wouldn't be surprised if there's already a deal done in the background, a handshake agreement between Daly and whoever is over the other side. And it just feels very the same situation as Cooper Cronk. Leaves Melbourne after so long, goes to the Roosters. That's how I feel like they would have sold it as well on that side. And, you know, the potential of Joey Manu coming back. They've got some salary cap room. It feels to me like he may land at the Roosters.
Is that what you think, Hindy?
There's a lot of talk going around that it probably would be the Roosters, but I look. Who knows where he's going to go? A lot of clubs have already said no, we're not going to.
He said you had to pick one.
I'm
What
going
are you sitting on the fence for? No wonder he misses Gerds.
I'm going Dogs.
Yeah,
They
right.
just rule themselves
I
out.
know, but that's
Yeah,
what I
but
was
that
just
doesn't
getting to.
mean anything,
That
does
doesn't
it?
mean.
No.
That means like how many times have we heard clubs go, "No, we're not interested."
Yeah.
2 weeks later, they've signed. So, and he'd be a good fit there too for a couple of years.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's good. That's the latest on Daly Cherry Evans. Michael, what about you?
Look, I think I'd bet your statesman on the Roosters, to be honest with you.
Well,
I
it's a
think
pretty good statesman.
because the reason is the Dog's got the feeling that he has already. Remember, he said that he went and asked his manager to go to clubs in the off season to see if they'd be interested. I think one of those clubs will get him, and I believe one of those clubs that he approached or the management approached was the Roosters.
Also, the fact that he came out and said definitely that, you know what, I won't be here next year.
Yeah.
I think if he's already done in my
Yeah,
mind. It's already
yeah.
done in my mind. For him to come out so strongly and go, no.
No matter what the money is.
No matter what the money is.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't go there now. You can't sign
No.
with Manly.
And after the Roosters
Well,
performance,
he has backflip before, so
you can't do it. You can't do it again.
Yeah.
No. Hey,
that's called a double backflip.
they'll be waiting for him in the car park.
you can't have your milk and drink it too, Wade.
Yeah.
Or
All
squeeze
right.
the lemon.
Can't squeeze the juice.
Let's-
Whatever.
It was a home game for the Roosters, and it's, I think, the first time in the last 12 times they've played that the Titans have beat the Roosters. Wado, where do you think the Roosters are at in the fair income department?
Well, listen, they're finding those inconsistencies in their performance because they're just lack of experience, really, and their leaders that they relied on for so long, you know, they're feeling the effects of that now. They've showed if they get it right, you know, with that win over Penrith a few weeks ago, that there's still a bit of fight in them, but they need to definitely improve. And I know, listen, it was a tough game of footy. There was, you know, wet weather footy this time of year. And I thought they were in it for a long part of the contest, right up until they were attacking, obviously, Gold Coast trial line. And then Jaden Campbell, he was fantastic last night, takes that intercept, races away, and that sort of turned the momentum, and they couldn't get back into the game from that. But, yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. And for them, these games against teams like the Titans, I know we're going to talk about them after this, but they're going to be in that log jam at the end of the year. There's always, 5 or 6 teams fighting between the 7th and 8th spot for the finals, and then there's 9, 10, 11. They're all in and around the same area, and you've just given a team who you know you're going to be in the fight with at the end of the year 2 points in a game that was there for them if they were good enough. So no wonder Robbo's disappointed. But on the other side too, the Titans, you know, it's a hard start for them at this year. They started with the bye, right? And everyone gets a sort of free hit. You got to sit back and watch. And they showed last year for a lot of the season how exciting they could be, that brand of footy. They're outside backs. They can find points. There was question marks probably over the halves combination between Campbell and Brimson, with Foran being out, and now they've lost Kinney at the back. So they're still shuffling the decks, and they're still trying to find their way forward. But I thought they were pretty good, and they got the job done. Jaden Campbell, I love him as a player. Seeing Big Tino back, he was fantastic in the middle. He's their real alpha and leader. And they're going to be some trouble for some teams this year, and you know, who knows how far they can go.
Nathan.
He could hear the frustration in Robbo's voice in that presser, because the amount of line breaks the Chooks made but couldn't capitalise on them. It just seemed like panic had set in. You know, we've made a break, we need to score off this set. Instead of just staying calm, like Sandon Smith was everywhere. He was trying his best, but it was a lot of panic. Teddy as improved he is this year, I think, in his running game. It looks like he's on fire. They just need someone to settle that game down. So, righto, guys, we don't have to score every set.
Yeah.
Let's work our way down there. We've made a break. What do we do next? We're not just going to take one from dummy half. We've got to move the ball a little bit. But
Cherry Evans.
They ended up, like a Cherry Evans. But they just ended up with too many mistakes. But a credit to the Titans. These are the sorts of games. It was 6-6 at half time. They're the ones for the Titans could go either way. And I think their leadership this year under Big Tino, Foz, as we mentioned, but players like Mo Fodawaker, they've really lifted. Brian Kelly in the centres with Phil Sammy, they've established themselves as good NRL players. So you got Fafita coming off the bench, which I think is a good call as well, because he's an impact player off the bench. But they just seem a lot more level-headed, the Titans this year, and a little bit more experienced and calmer.
I just wonder with the Roosters, because of obviously where they're at in terms of personnel and who they've lost, they've never been a really overly structured team. They just get out there, they play, they're fast over the ad line. If they get a quick play of the ball. They'll stay at the pressure point, then they'll move the ruck and attack again. And they've always had so much quality out there that they just trust that process. Players will get things done in that system. I wonder while they're in this development stage, if they don't try and just shift it a little bit and just add a little bit more structure, a couple more, get to a certain point in the field, have a look here. And then if we don't create an opportunity, that's okay. Let's just get to our kick, be a bit more patient, build that pressure and let the game plan take over. Because if you play in that style where you're over the ad line all the time and you're just playing from cue to cue, it can get frantic and players can get lost out there and communication becomes an issue. So I wonder if, moving forward, there'll be a chance for them to tinker and just take a step back to take a couple steps forward.
But even some of their basic things that the Chooks were doing, like, when Big Tino scored in the death there, White didn't even look what was in front of him. He was just looking at the ruck, which you got to check what's going on. Yeah. Also to the line, some of their back rows, the Sandon Smith, intercept pass. Crichton's usually that one that hits that hard. And I know he tried getting on the outside, but you can't try and get on the outside of someone like Campbell, who we know loves an intercept.
And who's smart too.
And stays in the line.
He can hear the call. And if Angus Crichton, so he called that an outball, right? Instead of an inball. He might hear the call saying outball on Campbell's outside shoulder. He's skillful enough to stick the Duke out like he did.
Yeah.
I've had my heart broken before with these blokes, but I'm falling in love with the Titans again. I honestly think that's a top eight team. Those players, the way Jaden Campbell's playing, honestly, Des will move him. I reckon they'll make the 8, the Titans, and it's a good enough football team to do so. Jaden Campbell, if Desi can turn him into one of the, it sort of reminds me of what Craig Bellamy sort of tried to do with Jerome Hughes and successfully did with Jerome Hughes. He could be anything.
Mate, he's a player.
Unfortunately, Wado, he's born in New South Wales, born in Cronulla. I thought,
shocked me. Here we
but
go.
his eligibility is with Queensland, and it would have been I think even this year he would have been a great 14 for New South Wales. Can play in the halves, can play up the back.
Anywhere in the
you could play him.
Like a Mango Bowen up there in Queensland.
Would have been great. But he's going to be wasted playing for Queensland. They're not going to pick him.
They do have a good balance too. They have speed. I know they're missing Campera at the moment. And Kinney's out for a little bit. But even AJ Brimson, Fafita, Sami, Brian Kelly, they have the speed. And now Big Tino back. He leads that forward pack with Mo and Fafita off the bench. And you're right, Michael. When they get it right, they're going to be a problem for teams. It's just when you said you've had your heart broken before, for some reason they just find that lull in their consistency. And that's the biggest test in the NRL. You just need to be at that level all the time because the moment you drop off, a team will make you pay for it.
Well, that's what happened to them last year a couple of times, didn't it? They'd get to a decent lead and all of a sudden they'd get mown down. So that's playing that full 80 minutes was a thing that it looks like at the moment that they've got that. Like that game last night could have gone either way, really. And they stuck to their guns and they got through it and they dug deep and hung on.
But the problem with the Gold Coast Titans is I think the three of you have just highlighted it. They've been around. This must be their 19th or 20th season. And all we've ever said about them, the best we've ever said about them is, they could probably make the 8 this year.
Yeah.
I think one time they played in a prelim.
That was early days.
Yeah.
Scotty Prince,
really,
I think.
They are
Presto.
Massive underachievers for a team for a club that had 18, 19 years in the absolute heart of rugby league territory, and the best we can hope they do every year is make the 8.
It's a good point. And to be fair, this is Desi's last. Desi's been around now. He's one of the premier coaches in the game. But if he can't get this right, this is his last crack at an NRL gig, you'd imagine. But if he does get it right, it really, really cements his legacy as one of the great coaches.
Well,
of all
they've definitely stepped forward from when he's taken over. They've made improvements, I think, for sure.
Yeah,
I would say from when Des took over. I know there was some,
absolutely.
I don't know, Wade. I felt they went backwards last year. To be honest with you, I know they lost Tino early on, but what they were doing under Holbrook,
he's a big player to lose, but
of course. But they were so disappointing last year, the Titans.
But this
year they're taking some steps forward.
But they still had those moments last year when they were on and they found that level. They were scoring 30, 40 points in games easy because of.
But then getting mown down.
So
maybe they need Cherry Evans.
I think they've moved forward. I think they've moved forward.
Yeah, I see a change in them as well. Yeah, I see a more of a consistent rugby league side that's, like we've said, they're going to challenge sides this year, I think.
You know what's going to happen? We're going to be with Chammas soon. They're going to break our hearts, mate.
Yes. Well, you know what they say, boys. When the Titans are doing well, rugby league is doing well. Let's leave that. No, they don't say that.
I've got to write that down.
Let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll do Tony Squire's quiz. with the real quizmaster, Maroon, in the chair today as Triple M rocks the footy. Saturday Scrum on Triple M, thanks to the Thirsty Camel, Michael Chammas, Hindy, Wado, Maroon. Time for this.
Welcome to Tony's Spotting Quiz.
So, yeah, Tony Squires, I haven't white-anted him yet. He's just having a week off, so it's Maroon filling in. You know, Hindy, that I take my quizzes and trivia very, very seriously.
You do, correct.
So I'm not going to let you be, give me any lip. You've got to get these questions right. I'm going to give you a point. If you get them right, I'm going to take a point away if you get them wrong.
Can you jump in early?
Back chat.
No.
Back chat.
That was a genuine question.
Okay,
That's
all right.
not back chat.
Well, I'll just say that you're already sailing very close.
Mate, that,
Eliminate him.
Tommy and Hindy, that was faster
And-
than
and
Maroon
mate,
went to the
hang
P1
on. Listen,
authorities on the weekend.
Chamo, you stay out of it, mate.
Sorry,
right?
I'm trying
in
to suck
charge.
up.
Okay. You can jump in early. Yes, that's okay. I'll
yeah.
allow that. All right. Okay. Let's go. I'm going to start. Wait. First of all, your names are your what are you going to use for your buzzer?
I'm going to use Jaden Campbell. I thought he was superb last
Right,
night, so
okay.
Campbell.
No, you have to say the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
He said he's going to use Jaden Campbell.
All right. So then you have to say Jaden Campbell.
Okay.
Jaden Campbell.
Wow. Are you running the show or is Maroon running the show?
Sorry,
actually, Chamo, if you speak again, you're going to be -1. All right. Okay. Hindy, what's going to be your
I'm going to go one of my dog's names.
Right.
So I'm going to go Beast.
beast? Right. Okay. And what about you, Michael?
P1.
P1. No, after the car park gate
Yeah,
on
that's right.
Thursday night.
Sucking up.
All right. Okay. I like that. I like what you've done there. Okay. Let's have a crack at these guys. I don't expect a lot from you, but just if you could stick to the rules is all I ask. Question number 1. Jai Gray is the shortest active player in the NRL. How tall is
Jaden Campbell.
Yeah, yes.
Are we going centimetres or feet?
You can go either
I'm
way.
going to go
Is that to jump in early?
5'7".
5'7" is correct.
What?
Wikipedia, 170 centimetres.
Yeah. Well, yes, that's exactly right. But now you're being a smart ass, so you
Minus
don't.
one, yes!
Yes. So we're all nil all still.
Yeah.
But he had the answer. He didn't have to
Yeah.
jump. He's like that winger
Yeah.
from the Dragons
I
that
thought you get
goes off
bonus points.
throwing cash out into the crowd.
Let
I'm
up.
looking for score the try and get back on
Okay,
side.
Humility, bro.
So you don't get the point there, Wado. You'll thank me. Long term, you'll thank me.
Okay.
Name the 3 clubs Cowboys coach Toddy Payton has played
Jaden
for.
Campbell.
Yes.
Roosters.
Yeah.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Tigers.
Yes, indeed. So he's back. He's back to 0. It's nil all.
Is it
Everybody's
West
0.
Tigers?
Oh, hang on a second.
Tigers
Mate,
good enough. Is Tigers good?
Tigers is good enough.
Because there are
Hang
there
on,
are Western
mate.
Suburbs Magpies
Mate,
fans
no,
out
mate,
there as well.
Mate, Tigers is good enough. I'm in charge here.
Good point.
Nil all. All right, here we go.
Nil all.
Okay. Wallaby turned Roosters centre Mark Nwakanitawasi scored a try last night. Spell his surname.
P1.
Yes, P1.
N-A-W-A-Q
Yes.
A
Yeah.
N-I-T-A
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
W-A-S-E.
He's done it.
Yeah, baby.
That's impressive.
Celebrating
That is
-1.
1-0, 1-0. Pardon?
Celebrating -1.
No,
that's what they call him now.
He was being modest. You went
Humility.
too far.
Okay.
You were going to give us a whole rundown on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like
Do we
Jai
have a-
Gray.
do we have a score update?
Chamo 1,
Yes.
and you 2 are nil.
Okay.
Okay.
Still in it.
All right. Well,
Yes.
I'd like to get this done by about 1:05 if we can. Now, Bulldogs Sharks tonight at 7:30 head to head. Who has won more?
Jaden Campbell.
Yes.
I think the Bulldogs.
Okay. The Bulldogs have. So you're back. So
Sorry.
it's 1-1.
One more what? Games
Yeah.
since they've been
Yeah.
in
But
the competition
yeah.
or against each other?
Since against each other.
Okay.
So I'm going to actually.
question.
That was an open-ended question, wasn't it?
Well, they're actually looking for the exact number, but I think that's a bit too hard.
Well,
but
read the question.
Well, hang on.
then.
I tell you what I'm going to
give us
do,
half a
Hindy. You're on your final warning, right?
I don't care.
I will. All right, that's it,
I'm
mate.
out. I'm
He's got to
done.
stand down. He's got to stand down for
I'm
this
out.
one.
Righto.
He's
Yep.
got to stand down for this one.
Happy with that.
Cheeky bastard. All right. There's been 2 field goals kicked in the NRL season. Name the 2 players.
Jaden Campbell.
Yes, Jaden.
No, he didn't kick one.
Ah,
Oh, that's his buzzer.
No, the you blokes. Come on.
Humphreys.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Oh, you should get this one, Wado.
Mate, you can't just stop other people from answering the question. Actually, let him go. -1.
5, 4,
Brent
3,
Tittle.
2.
That's correct. I've
That's too
forgotten the
long.
score now. I think
Sorry.
it's.
And you gave him a clue.
And it's hang on a second, mate. Now you're chiming in.
Just
Why
to
don't we
declare
do
it.
this? Everybody's nil. Nobody's got one yet. The next one wins.
This is
I like
shit.
that.
Because
You're
if you're
back
going to
in.
turn around and say you should get this way, though, clearly he's going to know it's a Sharks player.
Hang on a second.
So
hang
I'm
on a
questioning
second.
your integrity.
You've just got you. Thank you very much. You've just got yourself dismissed, mate. You're out.
just
It's
the two of
between
us.
you two. Okay. Whoever gets this one right wins.
Oh, Hindy, this is Bradbury like.
Okay. All right. Ben Hunt is now the top 10. Ben Hunt is now in the top 10 of games played in the NRL. Name the other two Broncos in the top 10.
Jaden Campbell.
P1.
Yes, Jaden. You can't answer,
I've
Michael.
got the answer, though.
Lockyer.
Yes.
P1.
Yes.
Langer.
P1.
No.
P1.
All right.
Corey Parker.
Okay. I tell you what I'm going
I'm
to do.
going to go Beast.
Well, yes, Beast.
I'm going to Petro 7 Seaver.
No.
I've already
No.
got the answer right.
The this has been terrible. If I wouldn't, if I was you guys, I would have a overhaul this because you're not taking on. I tried to give you the rules. You're not taking the rules on board. You're jumping in over each other. You're giving the quizmaster all the lip.
Corey
and
Parker.
Let's do one more. Yeah. All right, one
Was
more.
I right or not?
Yes, you
Yeah,
were.
correct. I win.
Hindy, whoever gets this wins.
I'm
all
struggling
right.
today.
I'm going to organise a little
Brain
prize
fog.
for you too. Here we go. In their last 7 clashes as coaches, how many has Shane Flanagan won?
Against who?
Against anyone.
What?
Percentage?
Just number.
James Graham, 0.
Yeah.
Jaden Campbell. Wow, James
James
Graham.
Graham.
I'm lost, man.
Look, I think it's
0.
I think it would be better.
Jaden
if we-
Campbell, 0.
Let's just knock
Let's
this
take
on the head.
Let's get to a
110.
break.
Jaden Campbell, 0.
Let's get to a
60.
break. No.
97.
Well, you're talking percents.
I don't know. I don't
All right.
know what the
I tell you
answer
what,
Talking
is.
I
any
tell you
sense
what.
at the moment.
This is a Fairtingham Chammas. Right.
Good chat.
When was the last time West Tigers won 3 in a row?
Jaden Campbell.
Yes.
2012.
No.
This year.
No.
To P1.
Yes.
2018 under
He's
Ivan
got
Cleary.
it!
Yes.
Wow, fantastic.
Make
Does
it
it go
end.
like
Make
this
it
every
end.
week?
Make
or?
it end.
That was
Just wrap it.
Marcus.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back next hour, and we'll get this thing back on track.
P1.
It's a Saturday scrum
74.
on Triple M. Yeah, we welcome Thirsty Camel into the Saturday scrum, and we love those guys at Thirsty Camel. They looked after Wado when he was up there at the Ipswich Country Music Festival. My name is Anthony Maroon. I'm filling in for Tony Squires. Then we've got Michael Chammas, Nathan Hindmarsh, and the one and only Wade Graham. Last night, the Broncos defeated the Dolphins 20 points to 12. So we want to talk about both these sides. It was wet weather football. Gee, it was heavy rain too, but the Broncos get the job done. They are 3 of 4 to start the season. Just to start on the Broncos here, boys, let me throw it to you, Wado, first. Are we all thinking that if the Broncos stay fit, they will finish top 4?
Well, definitely they're a chance. Like they're probably one of the most exciting teams in the competition. They welcomed back a Tony Staggs last night. It was good to see him back on the field. He made an impact with that try. He scored, and the combination between Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt has just kicked off straight away, hasn't it? That they understand each other's game, and it's such a strength to have Benny Hunt there because we know Adam has missed some footy over the year, and if that was to happen again, Hunt's experienced enough to get that team around the park, so there's no worry about that. And the forward pack, Carrington, Payne Haas, and Hetherington. I know he's a quiet achiever. I know Hindy's got a rap on him. He's been fantastic. So they can beat you up the middle. And when you're worried about handling their big guys, well, they got the speed and a danger on the outside as well. So I think the biggest thing for the Broncos, we saw it down there in Canberra a couple of weeks ago. It feels like the only team that can beat them is themselves at time when they try to force the issue and score off every play. And obviously Reece is around that a lot of the time because he's a talented guy, but he's still learning a little bit in his temperament about when to pull the trigger on certain plays. But yeah, they're a dangerous team.
What about you, Hindy, the Broncos? I ask you the same question.
Yeah, no, they're impressive. They'll be a top 4 side for sure for me at the way they're playing at the moment. They've just their depth. I like their depth. They don't lose anything when Payne Haas comes off the field or Carrigan comes off the field. You got young Willison that comes on now, he's bigger. Who's starting to really look like a footy player now after a few more games under his belt. But they seem like they're across the board. They're comfortable. When they do make a mistake, they can fix it defensively. So players like Hunt and Reynolds, if something doesn't work and they kick it too short or too long, they know defensively they can sort it out, and they've got the confidence in each other this year that they can get through those sets.
And Michael, what about the Dolphins? Like their opening 2 seasons, they were good. For a while there, it looked like they were going to make the 8. They haven't, but they were competitive in their opening 2 seasons. Here they are now, 0-4, the Dolphins. And look, for mine, I think they're, with respect, probably favourites for the wooden spoon.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. And it's probably disappointing when you consider the fact that the first 2 years they started the year pretty strong and they fell away. You sort of expect them to fall away around Origin time. Also, maybe a lack of depth as they were building a side that was supposed to grow into being a competitive team. The concern for Christian Wolff is he's not a rookie coach in like a Jason Riles, for example, who's coming into a team and completely overhauling a roster and culture and starting again. He's been there for the last couple of years. He's had quite a large say in building this roster and now has taken over and really should be taking the team to the next level, not what we've seen over the first few weeks, which is a massive step backwards from the Dolphins. And we're only 4 weeks into the competition, but if you're the Dolphins and your management, you start to think, well, what's happened here? We had a contingency plan. It was supposed to be foolproof to the fact that we build into a team that should be competing for finals by year 3, and it hasn't happened.
Listen, I'm happy to give them a bit of grace, to be honest, because there was disruptions to the start of their season. Big disruption in terms of the cyclone. They had to relocate. I know
that was round 1 though.
Yeah, but no, we spoke to Christian Wolff the day of the South game. Me and you were together.
Yeah,
South Penrith. We spoke about when they relocated against Newcastle. They didn't actually train until 2 days before the game, so they missed their entire week's training. They lost that game, so they're down in confidence. They go back up to Queensland. They get settled back in, and it basically you need to almost start again all that work that you put into the preseason. Put a line through the first 2 weeks and restart that process of, okay, this is what we were trying to achieve before everything happened, and that's what he was focusing on to take them sort of back to where they were before going forward again. And it sounded like a tough situation because, mate, players, and you know, honey, the creatures of habit. Like preparation, you would have had the same dinner every night for 50 years, like while you were playing, and then
correct.
And then so when you have that disruption, it can really send you sideways for a little bit. And unless you have really strong leaders in your team to sort of drag everyone back, and Christian at the front of that in the coach, it can take a while to find your groove again. And they're out of their groove. Like, when have we ever seen the Hammer so quiet? When have we ever seen Jeremy Marshall-King over the last few seasons not have the impact that we're used to having? So that they're out of their rhythm, and that they need, unfortunately, no one else really cares about them. Well, they're going to keep bringing the pain if they don't find the levels that they need to get to. But it was a pretty big disruption, and so I'm willing to give them a little bit of grace. But again, like, it can't go on forever. They need to turn the corner, and they need to start playing the football that we know they can play, particularly a couple of those guys I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, where do you see them? How do they turn the corner though with what they've got there at the moment? Like, I know you spoke about the Hammer, and like his involvement is probably not where we're used to seeing it. He needs to get his hands on the ball because you look at other fullbacks within the game, they have an outcome or they've got something to do with the result of their footy team, whether it's a win or a loss. But he's got the brilliance, he's got the individual attack in him. He's a bit of a freak, but we just haven't seen enough of him. Have they changed their style of play where he's not involved as much, or is that something
I think
he needs to involve himself more on early plays or later in the plays?
I think it's just a byproduct of where their confidence is at, really, and they're just sort of taking part in the game, not going after the game. Like even Herbie Farnworth last night.
He was outstanding.
He tried really hard, but he made some errors, but he tried really hard on his own.
You carry the ball nearly 30 times.
Yeah, but that's...
You're going to, and in those conditions, as hard as he was running...
But he shouldn't have to carry the ball 30 times. That workload should be spread out. And at the moment, they're not sharing that workload as a team because they're down in confidence and they're a little bit lost with where they're at in the footy team.
If that's what's happening already, so Herbie's looking around going, right, I'll have to do this not by myself, but when you get in those situations, Wado, and you're looking around at your teammates and you go, well, someone's I'll carry the ball.
Like Lomax last week for Para.
If they're doing that already, though, that's danger signs.
They need to get
if individuals are having to go above and beyond.
Yeah. Well, they need to sort it out. It happens on the training field and repetitions, and obviously growing trust within your teammates, because every time he sees someone else not doing their job and he goes, okay, I'll go in and take that run. Well, all of a sudden he's not there the next play when Nick Arima comes around the corner and wants to play to his centre. So it's a big balance, and they're a little lost at the moment. But you never want to hear excuses, but I can understand why they're at where they're at with the start of the season that they had, because the other teams didn't have to worry about that. When they were on a plane coming down and missing training, the other teams were getting ready to play them. So they're behind the 8 ball.
So how much grace are you giving them, Wader? At what point does the blowtorch then fall on the coach? Because you look at what Wayne's doing. He's obviously left the Dolphins.
But Wayne didn't have to relocate his team.
I know, but I'm saying to you, they've been, even in the 2 weeks since, they played the Tigers in Redcliffe, and then they play the grudge match against Brisbane at Suncorp, and they're just not on the same level.
Again, Mate,
at some point, it's going to be
20 to 12 against the Broncos side.
They were physically on the same level.
I thought some of the defensive sets
weather helped them stay in that game.
It did. Yeah, it brought the game nice and tight. But some of I'm with you, Wader. Some of those defensive sets that they put in, same as round one, they were bashing.
Yeah,
they were bashing those Broncos last night.
And there's just some fundamental decision making. Like we were speaking about it before, Heine, when Marshall King in the back row. Oh, sorry, the back row went the wrong way at marker, and Marshall King sort of turned out and opened
5
up that.
5 metres off your own line.
From Pake. So that's your front door. Your front door is your front door. Like just little areas like that where you're clocking off. You're just not 100% focused on your job and what you need to do. But in terms of when does the blowtorch come on, like it is on already. It's on already. I can see why they're in this hole. The only way to get out of it is to get to the field and put some work in it and get more connected as a team, because at the moment, like the Herbie Farnworth example is perfect. He's having 30 carries. He shouldn't have to have 30 carries. He should be having 18 carries and 9 of them should be in good ball attacking the line.
Can I ask you, how do you feel if you're Isaiah Katoa and you're hearing they chased Ben Hunt at the end of last year? Now there's talk about Cherry Evans.
Well,
like, this kid is considered one of the best young kids in the game. How do you think he feels right now with all this noise around him?
I'd be more than comfortable, because Christian Wolf came on Triple M the other night and said, I had the conversation with Katoa. He said, no matter what happens, you'll be our 7. And then again, as a youngster, the potential of having a Daly Cherry Evans come to this club and learn, not just learn from him, from all that experience, but to make us better, to make my job easier. That's what I wanted as a player. I wanted to win games. If he can come to it and help us and win games, that's all that mattered to me. And if I have to play 6, I'll play 6, play 14, whatever. We're going to win, we're going to win.
Okay. Well, next week they take on the high-flying Titans, but we'll take a break, and when we come back, Rabbitohs had a good win over Penrith. They led 28-0 and then at half-time, and then 28-18. So the boys will have a look at that game for you. And, of course, we do it thanks to our mates at Thirsty Camel. Thirsty? Your favourite bevy is just around the corner at Thirsty Camel. So camel on down to your local Thirsty Camel bottle shop for unseriously good deals. Thirsty Camel, the place to go for all your favourite beers, premixes, spirits, and wines. I wonder where we think the Rabbitohs are this year. Michael, I'll start with you. They've won 3 of their opening 4 games, and they've got their old rivals, the Roosters, this weekend. Where are Souths travelling? How are Souths travelling?
They're flying, Maroon. It's been a great start to the year. To be honest, when Cameron Murray and Latrell went down, we all thought this is going to be a year where we just think, okay, another wasted opportunity. Even with Wayne coming, I don't know about you guys. I didn't think they were going to be a top 8 team. I had them there with full strength, but
I'm still undecided.
You're still undecided?
I think I'm a little bit undecided still. I know they haven't hit full flight yet. The Bunnies, they had a bit of an upset last week against the Sharks, but I think they rectified those issues there in that game and went out on the weekend and ignored the fact they were playing Penrith. That's what it looked like. They had a great start. They said, oh, rat's ass, we're playing Penrith. I don't care if they've won 4 in a row. Big deal. Yeah, they were missing some plays, but they played some good footy, some real good footy. But I think they're a little bit up and down still at the moment, the Bunnies.
Yeah. Interesting as Latrell comes back. I know that, obviously I live in Rabbitohs territory and they're loving this kid, Jai Gray. A lot of consistency, a lot of pride in the jersey. Has he got to be in the 17?
Say it, Maroon. Say it. What you're trying to say.
I'm trying to say he's got to be somewhere in the 17, I think.
Well, why can't he stay at 1? Like he's shown what he can do at 1. I know everyone will say, oh, Latrell's got to go straight into number 1. I don't think so. Until Jai Gray starts going backwards, which I don't see happening very soon.
Yeah.
I think he has the right to keep his number 1 jersey there at the moment.
Well, I'd agree with that, Nathan.
And Latrell can play multiple positions. That's the tricky thing with Latrell in his career. He's never found his best position. So,
I just think
everyone will say, "Well, what a load of shit." He's a fullback for sure, but he can also play centre.
Yeah,
he can also play 6 when he's back. Yeah,
but I think it just gives Wayne flexibility with his team, right? We don't know what's going to happen when Latrell is fit. It's soon. Campbell Graham's still out. Do you put him in centre and then Campbell Graham's come back and you put him at the fullback? It just gives you more options when guys you bring in play well and repay that faith. Because you look at the flip side, Cleary out, Edwards out. Dane Laurie came in, didn't have one of his better nights. young Tolau in at half, a couple of errors, big shoes to fill, obviously. And South, every time they got an opportunity, they just executed. They were looking at their attacking best down that left-hand edge. I think the first opportunity they had on Thursday night, Alex Johnson straight in the open space. So they were fantastic, South, and they're doing well. They're holding their gloves up while missing Latrell, Cam, obviously Graham out. There's a couple more injuries. And I think they could be really happy with their start. And have they got improvement? Of course they do. They've still got some great players to come back in. Penrith, first time they've lost 3 games in a row since 2019.
Poor buggers.
It was like, like I said, it was almost like it was opposite night the other week, other night on Thursday. It was just so strange. But listen, I think it's a minor blip in the road for them. And I think once they're back and they're in gears, they'll still have the ability to make the top 4. And I think once they get there, they have so much experience and confidence that they can win it from anywhere in the 4. They just got to win one game. They get a home semi and away they go on their chase for more history. So they're still going to be up there. But South, massive tick for the start of the season considering the personnel they're missing.
I think with the discussion you're having around Latrell, you have to, from Wayne's point of view, you remember the last couple of years and the way he finished the year, Latrell. So much pressure and speculation around him. And then Wayne comes in. And Wayne and Latrell have a great relationship. And I think the byproduct of that is the way Latrell looks right now. And I think you can see on social media.
He looks amazing.
He does. He looks amazing.
That the fresh fade helps, but he's trimmed down a lot. He looks like he's ready to go. So clearly Wayne's come in there and he's had a result, and he's had an immediate result with Latrell. He looks in a good headspace. He looks happy. So you have to weigh up. Yes, of course, they're playing well with Jai Gray, but the result you're getting out of Latrell, isn't there a part of Wayne that thinks, okay, well, you know what? I need to reward this guy for what he's done for our football team, for what he's done for himself, and I'm going to show him the faith because he's the kind of guy, I'm sure he'll play centre if he's asked to. It's not going to be an issue. But if you say, you know what, Latrell, I know you've been out for 5 weeks, but you've been busting your backside. You're looking good. You've been good for the team. I'm backing you. Come in as our number one.
Isn't that his job to be in peak physical condition anyway?
Sometimes it hasn't been like that for Latrell. And I know everyone says, you shouldn't treat people differently, but he's obviously had a rough time of it over the last few years. I know people say, bad luck. That's the way
the pressure of being a top-notch rugby league player.
But he hasn't handled that well, and he's admitted that. He's sort of gone into his shell. So Wayne's come in and made him feel the love again, made him fall in love with rugby league. And I agree with you. Jai Gray doesn't deserve to be dropped, but this is all part of a longer game to make sure Latrell Mitchell is the player that Maroon wants him to be, that hasn't been in the last few years. And I think this is all a psyche to make sure that's the result of it.
I think you're right. I think Latrell will come out at fullback, and Jai Gray may earn a spot on the bench. But I'm just saying, what it does is it gives Wayne more options. Again, if Campbell Graham or Jack Wine goes out next week and gets hurt, he's out for a couple of weeks. Well, hang on a minute. We've got someone who's at fullback here, and we can just shuffle the decks a bit. Like if everyone's fit, Latrell's a fullback for sure. Jai Gray may get a bench spot, but it just gives him comfort knowing he's got more he can manoeuvre with in his roster. And one thing, I know you highlighted how good Latrell's looking, and he is, but so is like Jai Arrow's lost a lot of weight. He's trimmed up. Keon Koloamatangi was fit. He's lost a lot of weight, and
first try scorer.
Mm.
He had a couple of tries the other night. He was influential in that game, and whatever he does, Wayne Bennett, whatever the secret is he has, it's working at the moment at South, and they look like they're going in the right direction.
Yes, indeed. Well, Rabbitohs 28, Panthers 18. As the boys pointed out, the first time the Panthers have lost 3 games in a row since the back end of 2019. That's before COVID, boys. Where are Penrith? You've kind of touched on it already, Wado. So, Nathan, and Wado makes a great point. They've only got to finish top 4 and it all starts again. But do Penrith have another top 4 finish in them?
Yeah, they do. They're missing 2 very key players in Edwards and Cleary. So they were out without Fisher Harris this year as well. So they're getting used to that. But they have got the cattle there that can be definitely top 4 material again. Yeah, they've got a few hiccups. Bit of panic sets in. Everyone was against the Roosters the other week when it was the biggest upset in world history. So there's going to be some teething issues again with moving players around, getting things sorted, getting back into that grind, that style of footy they want to play again. Some of the teams are working them out, not letting them play their style of footy. So, but you get those 2 players back, it's going to be a totally different story.
Yeah.
And it's early days. And a side like Penrith, they can afford to drop a few games early because in the back end of the year they're going to be firing. Midway through the year they're going to be firing. But it could have been a different story if Leota scored.
Well,
which everyone at home knew was a try.
Did you think it was a try?
100% it was a try.
Michael?
Blind Freddie could have seen that was a try.
Yeah, I think it was a try. I think Hindy's right. Like, I think that the only thing is the depth. They haven't got the depth they had in previous years because the competition's just been taken from them for the last 3 or 4 years because all the kids that got an opportunity when all the big guns were out are now at other clubs because everyone wants to take them. So the depth is starting to dwindle a little bit. And if they do get key injuries to key players for extended period, it's going to be hard for them. When Nathan wasn't there, they had Jerome. Now there's no Nathan or Jerome, and you've got a makeshift halves pairing. Like it's not going to be easy for Penrith if they get injuries, but that's the price you have to pay. The success. There are so many young Panthers players who should be at their club who aren't because of this. Like we spoke about Isaiah Katoa earlier. You know, look at the Tigers. Look at the Bulldogs. They're mini Penrith. That's what happens. And I think if they get long-term injuries, they'll feel the heat this year. But if they can stay fit, get through Origin period, then they're good enough.
This is the Saturday Scrum. Thanks to the Thirsty Camel. We're going to talk about another head knock to Victor Radley. We'll talk about that shortly. Plenty to come. Stay with us. Saturday Scrum on Triple M. And welcome back. Well, the Roosters, not a great start to season 2025. Victor Radley had an HIA assessment last night. Gee, this seems to be a common trend with Roosters players more than anyone else. Lukey Keary, Jake Friend, Boyd, and now Victor Radley. HIA or concussions or head knocks, it just seems by coincidence to be more of an issue at the Roosters than anywhere else, fellas.
Yeah, it does after you rattle off all those names. But it's just a coincidence. Obviously, Maroon, look, every club has their issues with that sort of stuff, and it's just how they manage it. And I think the Roosters do a great job in managing that sort of stuff. I know we're about to speak about Victor and the amount of head knocks he's already had this year and in the past, so it's going to start to be a real concern for the Chooks whether or not they have to really kind of step in and do a little bit more investigation on to what I suppose Victor's future holds in the game.
Do you think, have a think about this before you answer and shoot me down, with all this research, all this information we have around head knocks, concussions, old rugby league players, do you ever think we'll see in the game the option for a player to wear some kind of quote-unquote helmet?
Unless that helmet can stop your brain shaking around inside your skull, there's no point. And I don't know if I'm saying the right thing here, but the headgear, like it'll avoid you getting cut and nicked and ears getting bashed up a bit, but the whole thing around concussion is your head moving inside your brain moving inside your skull. So you can have the best protection in the world on your head. You hit your head hard enough, your brain's still going to shake around.
Yeah, well, there's an issue in the NFL, right? And they wear helmets. If anything, it could potentially make it worse because you have lack of self-preservation because you're wearing the helmet. You use the helmet as a tool that you have on your body. I think it is a concern because he's had a few in his history. But the thing with Victor, he's not going to change the way he plays. That's who he is. That's the player he is, and that's what makes him Victor Radley. Like, he doesn't go into tackles just to make tackles. He goes into with intent to try and hurt someone and dominate a tackle, and it's too late for him to change. He's just got to hopefully make better decisions and make sure his techniques is as foolproof as it can be, and go out there and back himself and play the way he does. Unfortunately, in our game, accidents happen. I know I had some concussion issues throughout my career as well, but it's the nature of the beach. Unfortunately, this is a game we play.
It's the nature of the beach.
Beats. Sorry.
Beast.
The chili's got my
Nature of the beach.
Beast. The chili's got my tongue.
Add it to the list.
He's had a few head knocks.
But it is.
No, we shouldn't laugh at that.
But no, it is the nature of the beast. And if you want to live by the sword, you die by it.
I'll ask you, Wado, being a retired player, is that something you're concerned about? Do you go, this is what, like all these medicines and herbs and everything out there now, because it's not just the CTE, it's also dementia and everything. Like that sort of stuff is becoming a little bit more prevalent in society, not just for rugby league players, but for everything. So I think do you sit at home go, and if you've said a few sayings wrong, does that kind of trigger something?
Obviously not.
But do you go, I usually get that saying right, and then do you start thinking,
maybe I should now that you've brought it up, but no, I don't. Listen, I'm comfortable with my health and where I'm at post footy. Certainly I have some damage to my body. No doubt
Yeah.
there's probably some to my brain as well from the concussions. But my shoulders aren't the same. My hands aren't the same. My knees aren't the same. My ankles aren't the same. Would I change it?
No.
No. Am I aware of it and need to keep an eye on it moving forward? 100%. The same way I would, if my neck stiffens up and I need to go get some treatment for that, if I start to think that I am having issues, I'll seek some advice for it for sure. But I wouldn't change it for the world, to be honest.
Well, then, given the nature of football players and they're not going to change and they are who they are, then I guess we go back to changes that we've already made to the game, Michael, and changes that we might continue to make. For instance, there was that talk about not having kickoffs anymore so that we don't get the blokes coming off the back fence. So, the changes are going to have to be made. It's not going to be a matter of choice.
Every change can be made under the sun. But when you're playing a contact sport and you've got to tackle another man running at you, or a woman, everyone plays, things go wrong. And it takes a little bump from a hip or an elbow.
Well, Victor's was a head clash last night.
Yeah. And the week before it was he looked like he made a good tackle. He got bumped in the head with a hip. And that was it. That was enough. So
the game's done a lot.
The game has done so much about protecting the player, and I think they're doing great things in that space by looking after the players' welfare, not just for while they're playing, but for also long term down the track.
I've got this box at home of rugby league weeks from the 80s that I got in the 80s, and every second edition, the front page is somebody spear tackling someone.
Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, Dr. George Paponis, he's on Face to Face on Fox.
Yeah.
He's talking about packing into a scrum, getting fingers that deep in his eyes, was touching the back of his skull.
Yeah.
So things have
Amazing,
changed.
isn't
They've changed a lot.
The thing with our modern players is they're just so athletic and they can move so quickly. And when you set to make a tackle, you might be in the right position to make that tackle, but then your target moves so quick and so late that you can't adjust. And that's where you see the accidents happen. And the big ones, obviously the spectacular ones off the kickoff. I think if we looked at the numbers, that would only be a small percentage of the overall incidents that bring on concussion. Like, of course, they're the ones we remember because they're the big hits off the kickoff. But if we look at the numbers, I'd say that's only a small percentage of the total incurred. It's more the in-game stuff that Hindy was saying, that the elbows or the hips or that late movement where you can't adjust and you can't protect yourself. But I don't know.
But a lot of them can be fixed with proper tackle technique as well. Like you do see a lot of them where they've put their heads on the wrong side of the ball carrier's body, and they've copped a knee, or they've just and you usually get that from, and this is not, from a half or for a back who doesn't have to do it as much as someone else.
So to be honest, where I got myself into trouble a few occasions when I would come out of the line too quickly, and then I knew I was in the wrong position.
It was too late to pull out.
But it was too late to pull out. Someone had wrong-footed me.
Yeah.
But I was in a position to make contact, and I was just, you make that, and
because you come out that fast, you don't have time to stop.
You don't have time to adjust.
So you're looking to it. That was when you used to try and inspire your team, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's a part of the game. There was a part of the way, well, certainly I played, and it got me into trouble. It did. I got caught and tagged a couple of times, but yeah, that's a decision I made of the game that we're playing in terms of trying to turn the game in our favour. But even in the moment, I knew that I'd got it wrong.
Yep.
There's that little part in you, the competitor just goes, oh, well, make the contact anyway. And
you have to.
You commit it,
yeah,
right?
That's exactly right.
And
but
that's the thing like the rugby league players deal with inside of them.
Yeah.
It's like this, you had this competitor that wants to go after it. And then when you're out there, like we're different now sitting in a room having a conversation. But once that whistle goes, a different thing clicks on inside of you and the competition starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different world out there on the field once it's game time.
Have either of you ever been in that situation where, like, something's happened and you are in so much pain that you just think for a minute, I'm just never doing this again?
Well, that was last weekend when I woke up on Sunday morning. God, I was hungover, and I said, I prayed to God. I said, get me through this one. I won't touch another drop. And that was obviously a lie. You get your bumps and bruises, but nothing like you've had your bones break and all that sort of stuff. But I think the worst on the field is when you get winded.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I know it's the softest one out of all of them, but for a split second you think you're going to die.
And then you breathe in and you can't get out again. It just gets worse.
Because you know you've got to be in the defensive line.
Yeah.
So, that's probably the worst. But we've broken bones and done ankles and knees and wrists and all that sort of stuff. And But that's part of the game.
Yeah.
That's why you enjoy it. That's why you play it, because it is a contact sport, not made for everyone.